All right, let's finish this week off right. It is Common Knowledge, the show where I take a look at 10 common Magic the Gathering cards and tell you are they any good in the Pauper format or not. And sometimes I do an 11th or 12th card, it just happens. We'll start with our first card, though. It is Bloodlust, which I think we've done before. Maybe not. Let's do Bloodlust. Why not? I'm gonna go on this 4th edition one because that's the copy I've got. Bloodlust is 1 and a red for an instant. If target creature has toughness 5 or greater, it gets +4, -4 until end of turn. Otherwise, it gets +4, -X until end of turn, where X is its toughness -1, which is kind of a mouthful. But I suppose templating wise, that's probably how you had to say it. We had to, we never fixed that. We never found a better way of saying that. Anyway, this gives you a huge power boost and a huge toughness loss, but will never kill your creature. That's kind of the point of it. So, not too bad. It kind of just turns any card into a ball lightning in a way, except I guess it doesn't give trample. That is not amazing. It really does need to give trample for it to be good, but if it gave trample, it would probably be too good. So, I don't know. This could be really interesting if you have a card that already has trample on it. Like, oh, no, not Hulu. Click the wrong thing. Champion of the Flame. God. A Champion of the Flame comes with trample on it already. Yeah, this guy wants auras and equipment on him, though, and that's the way you boost him. In the deck that I have with this guy, you put Inventor's Axe, which we did on a recent episode, or Dueling Rapier, or Mirren Battle, or Mirren Banesplitter. You equip those things to him. You equip an Ethereal Armor to this guy. Like, there's other things you do with this guy, but he is just a guy who starts with trample, which is kind of nice if you throw a Bloodlust on him. Yeah, you're probably losing the creature, but you do turn it into a ball lightning at that point. And ball lightning would be a hell of a Pauper card. There's a reason we don't allow ball lightning in Pauper. It would be pretty darn good. And I think Bloodlust is an interesting card. Not a great card, but an interesting card. If we have more 1 mana, you know what? That's another thing we can search for. Why don't we try that? What if we do... I guess they don't have to be red, but yeah, let's say they're red anyway. What if we said red 1-drops with trample, and they have to be legal in Pauper? Let's see what we get. 11 card. Oh, I want creatures. Sorry. Shh, Siri, we're not talking to you. Calm down. And we want them to be creatures. 2. That's not true. Oh, Champion of the Flames 2. That's right, yeah. So Goblin Cavalier, which we've done on the podcast before, or not on the show before. It's kind of similar to a Champion of the Flame. And then Spark Elemental is kind of that ball lightning that we have, but a third of a ball lightning. And you don't... I guess you could play Bloodlust on that, and that would turn it into a better ball lightning. It would turn into a 7-1 with Trample Haste. I don't know. Think about it. There's something to it. Playing a Bloodlust onto Spark Elementals, that's 3 mana. 3 mana for 7 damage. Think about it. It's generally not very good, but I think there's something kind of interesting about it. I would like to give it something like I'm going to give this like a 3.6. I truly do think there is something to it, even if most of the time it's probably not amazing. You put this in the right deck, and this thing can shine, and will surprise a lot of people too. You don't see a whole lot of cards from 4th or 5th edition show up in Pauper these days, outside of like the Elemental Blast and Lightning Bolt and some classic spells like that. But those spells get updated all the time. They have tons of versions. This one doesn't, and it's very cheap if you're not getting the Legends version. So I don't know. Bloodlust is all right. Let's see what our next card is. It's Pestilence. Oh boy. Here we go. Pestilence, for those who don't know, is 2 and double black for an enchantment. At the beginning of the end step, if no creatures are on the battlefield, you sacrifice this enchantment. And you can pay a black to have this enchantment deal 1 damage to each creature and each player. Pestilence is a hell of a card. It's been a Pauper staple for a while. It has a number of decks that use it. There's food pestilence and some Golgari kind of pestilence that are also mostly food based. There's some mono black decks that will use pestilence. There are mono black decks that will use specifically creatures, well, not even mono black decks, but just decks that will use creatures with protection from black. So you can guarantee that a creature will always stay on the table because this will, not be able to kill it. We've shown it on the channel before, but there's Cemetery Gate, which I will not misspell this time. Cemetery? Hey, look at us. Look at us. We got it right this time. Cemetery Gate, protection from black. That's an option. There's also some white cards that have protection from black naturally that are in the Pauper format. Pestilence is a great card. You can do some really nasty things with Pestilence. Keep your opponent's board pretty darn clear. It's great. Pestilence is a really good card. It's kind of nuts that this thing is common. It feels like a card that shouldn't be common, and yet it is. And there's some pretty good versions of it too. I have this 4th edition one, and yeah, this rabies looking person is pretty good. This 5th edition one that's also the 6th edition one I think looks pretty nice too. The Urza Saga one's not too bad either. It's Pestilence, man. Pestilence is a good card. Kind of wild they haven't made more promo-y versions of Pestilence, that it hasn't been a special guest somewhere. The closest we got was in Time Spiral, or Planar Chaos more specifically. It was Pyrrhemia, which is a red version of Pestilence, but that one has not shown up in Pauper. This is uncommon, and it also got a secret lair drop for the PlayStation one. But wild to me that Pestilence hasn't seen more printings. Not that it needs a ton of printings. Like, look at this. You can get copies for under 50 cents. Almost a quarter for this 5th edition one. So it's out there. You can make Pestilence decks, and it won't cost you an arm and a leg. Pestilence is pretty good. What do you give Pestilence? Man, I mean, this one card has won so many games of Pauper. It's got to be a high number, right? Is this in the 8s? This like an 8.3? Something like that? This is definitely the highest card we're going to see this week, and it's probably the highest card we're going to see for a while, unless we get like some kind of land that might be good. Oh, we got the artifact land, didn't we? A little while ago. So I guess it won't be our highest, but God, Pestilence, what a good card. Tendrils of Despair, single black mana for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice target creature. Target opponent discards 2 cards. That's kind of interesting. We see Village Rites and things like that all the time. Corrupted Conviction, that is sacrifice a creature and you draw 2 cards. But what if the card advantage was the other way? What if you force the opponent to discard some cards instead? That's fascinating. That's fascinating to me. This is something you could play on turn 1 with Ornithopters, right? You play an Ornithopter for no mana, throw a swamp out there, sack this guy, make him discard 2 on turn 1. That's kind of nasty. I think this card's really good. I haven't seen anybody play this card. There's no way. There's no way, right? Pauper metagame. Is there a way to search by... I know we can search a card here, so it was Tendrils... Not Tendrils of Agony, it was Tendrils of Despair. This had to have shown up in a deck, right? If this wants to load at some point. Because it seems so good. It's available in Pauper. Like Dex Plane. This is these are they're Pauper Royale, Pauper. So it's in some stuff. Best of 3 in mono black. No, not this. That's not Pauper. Well, this says Pauper. Let's see what we got here. So it's played as just a one of in this deck. That's weird to me. I think you could. I don't know if this necessarily goes in mono black sacrifice, but I think this card is just really good. If you can make some token creatures, this would work pretty nicely with carrot cakes in Pauper, right? Yeah, this could work pretty nicely with carrot cake, with the token that carrot cake makes. Doesn't have to be non-token. Like that's really good. Making them discard 2 cards is incredibly good. It's so good that a card that makes them discard 2 cards, Hymn to Torok, is banned in Pauper. It makes them discard 2 cards for 2 mana. Now, that's 2 cards at random. That's the random part is more the reason for that. But 1 mana and you make them discard 2 cards? Okay, how about a different one? How about a Wrenchmind? Wrenchmind can also make them discard 2 cards or an artifact card for 2 mana. That's a little closer to what we're talking about. We see Wrenchmind played sparingly, but Wrenchmind gets played, and Wrenchmind's a good card. This is really good, guys. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that this isn't like a staple. Tell me if I'm off base here. But shouldn't people be playing this card? And it's not expensive at all. It's 16 cents. I'm going to give this thing a 6.2. I'm going to buy 4 copies of this. This is great. There's people have had to try this before, right? I mean, we just looked at the metagame. There's people who are playing this as like a one-off or something, but I guess it's sorcery speed. Like, you're not going to be able to respond to somebody trying to kill your creature the way that you can with a Corrupted Conviction or a Village Rites, or even the Fanatical Offering or something like that, which are 2 mana. But still, it makes them discard 2 cards. I think this card's really good. All right, let's move on. But damn, I thought Pestilence was going to be like the one good card we saw today, and yet there you go. Revel Ruiner is 3 and a black for a 3/1 Octopus Rogue. Used to be a Cephalid, but that is changed now. It's got Menace, and when this creature enters, it connives. So you draw a card and then discard a card, and if you discard a non-land card, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. This isn't all that good, which is kind of sad because we see a card that is very similar to this, Rafine's Informant, which is a Pauper staple in mono white weenie. Rafine's Informant is now it's 2 mana for a 2/1, and when it enters, it connives. So it doesn't have the menace that this does, but it also doesn't cost 4. This costing double what that one does. But a menaced 4/2 is pretty scary when it's on the board. But it's got to get on the board first. And when it costs 4 mana, that's going to take longer. It's also still going to have 2 toughness at the max when it comes in like this. Some of the times, maybe it'll still just be 1, and that's still pretty easy to pick off. It's tough. I think most Pauper decks are able to have their engines in place and make bigger creatures and more impactful plays than a 4/2 menace on turn 4. And so a card like this ends up just kind of being limited draft chaff kind of stuff. But I do just generally like this. This probably was pretty nasty and limited, being able to get you a little bit of card selection plus a body that is hard to ignore. It takes out 1/5 of your life total if you don't block it. That'll chunk you down pretty nicely. But in Pauper, yeah, And Pauper, this doesn't do a heck of a lot. We will give this a 2.6. Fanatical Firebrand is a pretty good card that I've seen a little bit, and we see it in Standard even today because it is in Foundations. Fanatical Firebrand is a single red mana for a 1/1 Goblin Pirate with haste. You can tap it to sack this creature, and it deals 1 damage to any target. 1/1 Goblins with haste. We have those cards. They're called Raging Goblins. Raging Goblins. 1/1 with haste. That's a terrible looking one though. That's gross. If you're gonna do a Raging Goblin, I guess most people like this Raging Goblin, but this has always been my guy, the 7th edition one. Yeah, Raging Goblins. So we just made a better Raging Goblin. It's like a Raging Goblin and a Mog Fanatic had a baby, right? Am I right on that one? Yeah, Mog Fanatic. Sacks to do damage to a creature or player. So it literally is just a Raging Goblin and a Mog Fanatic put together. And I was going to say the difference is that it taps to do it, but it has haste, so it can already tap to do it whenever. I think this is a good card. I just do. I think it's pretty solid across the board. Goblin Pirate are 2 pretty darn good creature types to do lots of things, both in Pauper and out of Pauper. Something that you can put down turn 1 and immediately attack with. Still has value in the late game to be able to ping down an opponent's creatures or just get you a little reach on an opponent by being able to play it and tap and sack it. So it's like a fire bolt. Lava dart. Sorry, lava dart's the one I'm thinking of. Kind of just like a single-use lava dart, but it's also a lava dart that you can find through Winding Way and other things that just find creatures for you, but not spells. This is a good card. It might not have enough impact to really break through in Pauper, but this is just a good general card. It's a really good cube card if you're going to make a cube. And it could totally see Pauper play. I think the more it probably ends up seeing more play once you get into creature type matter stuff. Once you get into, hey, this is a deck that's all about goblins, or it's a deck that's all about pirates. Maybe a deck that plays both, but some kind of is-it deck that plays both of those things. I think it's just generally okay for Pauper, for a constructed format where you can just use the best of the best cards, but in something like Standard right now, this is a really nice 1-drop to just play. You can do some great things with it. I'm still going to give this thing a 4.3. I think this is a great card. I do. Next up is Run Amok. 1 and a red for an instant. Target attacking creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until the end of turn. Interesting that it says target attacking creature. So you can only use this as a combat trick offensively. And the trample, wants you to do that too. That is them incentivizing you to use it when you're attacking. But it is nice to be able to use some of these when you are defending too, just to give you the option. And this one doesn't give you that option. Still, 2 mana for, we did talk about Bloodlust earlier, and that was +4 power for 2 mana instant speed. And we were going, oh, this doesn't give you trample though. This one is 2 mana at instant speed, and it does give you trample. That's what you want. Still, being on the attacking thing, it does lose a little something out of it. Bloodlust. Did Bloodlust only work on your creatures? No. Bloodlust can work on your opponent's creatures too. So I didn't even mention that. That's a really good thing to do too. That sure, it doesn't give your opponent's creatures trample, which you don't want, but it does bring their toughness way down where you might be able to trade with them better. Bloodlust might be a pretty good card. It might even be better than Run Amok. Run Amok is still fine. It is nice to get the trample on a creature for whatever you're doing, and it's a giant growth that adds trample, but only for attacking creatures. I really don't like the attacking creature part. I really don't. That is going to dock it some points. I'm going to give this thing a 3.4. And I think that's mostly just to avoid giving the power and toughness that it puts out. But yeah, I think I'm going to give this a 3.4. Pretty solid card. Worthy cost is a single black mana for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, exile target creature or planeswalker. Flavor text has a typo in survival. What? Survival? Oh, the second use. I'm like, what do you mean? It's spelled right here. But no, there's a second survival here, and it is misspelled. How about that? No. I've been watching the Wizards years, the WotC years of the Pokemon TCG. There's a YouTuber who's putting out like a giant series of all the Pokemon sets that have happened, all the eras of the Pokemon TCG, and they just finished. Well, when I'm recording this, they just finished the WotC years, and it's fun to go and see some of the WotC print errors that are on a number of those Pokemon cards. There's some real goofy ones, but yeah, this one is, they dropped an extra I in the chat. What can you do? Worthy cost is okay. I love this art, by the way. This is some fantastic art. This is definitely the thumbnail for sure, but it's fine. We have these in Pauper already. Eaten Alive, I believe. Yeah, Eaten Alive also gives you the option of paying more mana to do it instead of just having to sacrifice the creature. So it's technically the better card. We don't have any planeswalkers in Pauper, so this part is really unnecessary. You're really just exiling target creature. Which is still good, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I think I'd rather make the opponent discard 2 cards, And that would have been a better use of sacrificing the creature. I still think Worthy Cost is a cool card, but we definitely have better options in Pauper that are, better both from a cost perspective, but also better from an effect perspective. That just takes Worthy Cost out of contention entirely, despite this really, really good art by Andrew Marr. We will give this thing a 3.2, I believe. Man, that art is really good. Run Behind is a new card. We did this on the Pauper Buyer's Guide for Secrets of Strixhaven. So we have looked at this card before, but we have never done it for Common Knowledge. So we will, I guess, re-rate it here. Run Behind is 3 and a blue for an instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast if it targets an attacking creature. Target creature's owner puts it on their choice of the top or bottom of their library. I do remember talking about this card, and I thought it was pretty cool, these kind of time ebb style effects. That is correct, right? I am talking about time ebbs. Yeah, time ebbs put a creature on top of its owner library. So this one, it does give your opponent the choice, which isn't amazing, and it ends up costing as much as Time Ebb does if you use it on an attacking creature. But Time Ebb, sorcery speed. This is instant speed. It can cost as much as a Time Ebb if it's doing it to an opponent's attacking creature, which isn't, that's probably the creature you want to target anyway, as that's the one that's probably killing you. 3 mana for an instant speed Time Ebb is all right, even if the opponent decides to put it at the bottom of their library. And the reason they would do that is so they can not keep up their tempo, but at least not ruin their tempo entirely. When hey, that creature, I don't want to have to pick up that creature and re-spend all the mana to play it and then wait another turn for it to be able to attack with it. Maybe they will just choose, screw it, let's put it at the bottom and hopefully I'll get a draw spell or whatever spell I really need off the top of my deck. So sometimes they'll just make that choice. Now, whenever you give an opponent a choice, they're always going to choose the best option for them, which isn't always and sometimes never the best option for you. Still, in this case, I think this is a pretty good tempo loss. It is a way of essentially exiling the creature in blue if they choose the bottom of their library. And if they don't choose the bottom of their library, it is a pretty huge tempo loss for the opponent, which is nice too. I think this is a good card generally, but I don't think this is a good card specifically enough for any one Pauper deck to play. So I don't think it really cracks the Pauper metagame, but I still respect the hell out of the card, which is why I would give it something like a 3 point. I've already given a 3.4. I've already given a 3.2. That's not fair. Like you give the cards the scores they deserve. I will give this a 3.2 then. Pretty good though. I think this is probably a slept on card in Secrets of Strixhaven Limited at least. Mortal Obstinacy is a single white mana for an enchantment aura that enchants a creature you control. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, and whenever enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice this aura. If you do, destroy target enchantment. Okay, so you get a buff spell and kind of a removal spell. I don't I don't really like this. Like it's kind of better than a Holy Strength, but it's also basically worse than a Holy Strength. Holy Strength at least gives you second toughness. Do you even play this in Mono White Heroic as a sideboard option when you're playing the Mirror or when you're playing a Bogle's deck? I don't think you do, because you need to get in first. Having to deal combat damage to a player to reward you're rewarded by damaging a player by getting to sacrifice this aura, making your creature smaller, and only then can you actually destroy an enchantment. I think that's pretty bad altogether. I'm gonna give this a 2.3, I think. Ugh. Yeah, I really don't like that at all. Explosive Shot is 1 and a red for a sorcery. Explosive Shot deals 4 damage to target creature. That's pretty normal. What is Seer? No. I'm just looking for the card Seer. Seer's an instant that deals 4 damage to target creature or player, but Seer is uncommon. Okay, so I guess we don't get access to Seer in Pauper, but I wouldn't necessarily play this. 4 damage to just a target creature at sorcery speed. I think that's pretty bad. We've talked about it before on the channel multiple times, but 5 really is the magic number for a lot of Pauper stuff. You think about all the creatures that have 5 toughness, your Gurmag Anglers, your Delarian Terrors, your Cryptic Serpents, like those are the ones. 5 really gets you to the point where you go, okay, I'll spend that mana. I need to do that 5 damage. That will get rid of the big creature for the most part. 4's not enough. It's just not enough. Cool art, but that's kind of all I can give it. So I'm gonna score this thing 2.1, I think. Sorcery Speed really does kill this. That's pretty bad. Druid's Deliverance is 1 and a green for an instant. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you this turn and populate. All right, we get a fog effect. Fog effect with a little bonus. We get lots of fog effects with little bonuses these days. You know, whether they're putting cards from your graveyard back into your library, or whether it's like Moment's Peace that gives you flashback and it's a fog you can use again. There's some 2 mana fogs that do okay. We have enough 1 mana fogs for the one Pauper deck that uses this, the Turbo Fog deck. We have enough 1 mana fogs and like something like Moment's Peace, which you can use twice, and that's good card advantage, or Tangle, which is just an incredible one that keeps your opponent's creatures tapped down, and that's a huge tempo loss. I don't think Druid's Deliverance is enough to make that deck. I don't know if that deck really has any creature tokens that it can populate. It's not really a deck that's about creatures. because the idea is to keep fogging as you do other things. The creature part is a little unnecessary. This is probably a cool commander card, though, to both getting an extra creature on the board through the populate and also just being a fog effect. That's cool. But in Pauper, I don't think this really does much of anything at all. I will give this a 2.3, I guess. I'm not super excited about it. Let's do a bonus card and then call it a day. It is Bountiful Harvest, 4 and a green for a sorcery. You gain 1 life for each land you control. That is some real classic normal Magic. Some fine looking art here. It's weird that this was only in Magic 2010, 2012, and 2013. This feels like a card that has been in Magic since Alpha, 5 mana for an amount of life that is, if you're in green here, you can certainly put a lot of lands on the table. If you're paying 5 mana, I wouldn't say it's safe to assume that you have 5 lands, because you could play Land of War Elves and things like that, or Mana Rocks, but generally, let's say if you're casting the spell, you probably have 5 lands out. So 5 mana for 5 life, that's not very good. But you could play this much later in the game where you have, I don't know, 8, 9 lands out. So 5 mana for 8 or 9 life, better. Still pretty bad. And this is a card that if you draw in your opening hand, you are pissed. you never want to see this in your opening hand. You can't cast it for a while, and you don't want to cast it in the early game because you don't have enough lands anyway. So this is just a bad card, I think, especially for the Pauper format, which is not lightning fast, but it's still way faster than a card like this could ever succeed in. So we'll give this thing a. I think this is like a truly terrible Magic card for where you would want to use it. I'm gonna give this a 1.3. 1.3. It really is that bad. Yikes. Well, we got some very good cards. We got Pestilence. That was cool. But ended on kind of a bummer. Oh well. Maybe next week. See ya.